I wasted $2,500 last year because I didn't understand how money actually works. Like millions of Americans who collectively lost over $388 billion in 2023 due to financial illiteracy, I was making costly mistakes. After reading 40 financial books, I discovered something profound. The wealth secrets aren't contained in bestsellers like Rich Dad, Poor Dad alone. The real insights emerge from the patterns across all of them. By synthesizing these patterns into a practical framework, I've helped 3 clients transform their finances completely. They went from drowning in debt to building their first $100,000 in savings in under 18 months. Here's how they did it. The Emily effect. From $75,000 debt to $1 million net worth. Let me introduce you to Emily, the 28-year-old marketing manager whose story might just change how you think about money forever. Just 3 years ago, Emily was living the classic broke millennial lifestyle, coming home to her tiny apartment after a long day at work, boiling yet another package of ramen noodles, and staring at her phone as the banking app reminded her of the $75,000 debt mountain looming over her life. Between her marketing degree student loans and the credit cards she'd leaned on during unpaid internships, Emily was drowning financially while trying to keep up appearances professionally. I was budgeting down to the last dollar, wearing the same 5 outfits to work, and still watching my debt grow every month. Emily told me when I interviewed her about her financial transformation. The worst part was the constant anxiety. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. calculating how long it would take to pay everything off, and the answer was always depressing, like 20-plus years depressing. Emily's situation probably sounds familiar to many of you. She tried everything the financial gurus recommend: budgeting apps, side hustles, and debt snowball methods. She drove for Uber on weekends and became a dedicated Dave Ramsey listener. But after 6 months of hustle and sacrifice, she had only paid off $3,200, a pace that would have her debt-free sometime around her 45th birthday. The turning point came when Emily, recovering from wisdom tooth surgery, binged financial books instead of Netflix. I noticed something weird, Emily explained. These authors all contradicted each other on specific tactics, but when you zoomed out, they agreed on underlying principles that nobody was talking about. This revelation led her to create what she calls her hybrid wealth formula, a personalized system that combined elements from multiple wealth-building approaches tailored to her specific situation. What made Emily's transformation remarkable was how she completely rejected the standard financial advice playbook. While conventional wisdom preached extreme frugality, she strategically increased her spending in 3 specific categories. First, she invested in specialized digital marketing certifications that immediately boosted her value at work, leading to a $12,000 raise. Second, she spent money on health optimization, better groceries, a gym membership, and quarterly blood work, which eliminated the brain fog and fatigue holding back her side business efforts. Third, she invested in a co-working space membership that connected her with clients for her freelance marketing work. Everyone told me to cut every possible expense, but that approach was making me miserable and limiting my income potential, Emily said. Once I started strategically investing in myself and my earning power, everything changed. I'd been trying to save my way to wealth by squeezing pennies, when I should have been focusing on making dollars. The fundamental mindset shift that transformed Emily's financial life was deceptively simple, yet revolutionary. She stopped seeing money as something to manage, budget, and restrict, and started seeing it as something to multiply and accelerate. This principle appeared in 38 of the 40 wealth books I analyzed, yet most readers miss it because they're too focused on tactical specifics. Emily explained it perfectly. I used to open my banking app and immediately think, how can I make this money last until payday? Now I look at the same numbers and think, how can I use these resources to generate more resources? It completely changed my relationship with money. With this mindset shift as her foundation, Emily implemented a practical system combining strategies from multiple wealth books. She used the velocity banking approach, leveraging a HELOC from her parents' investment property to consolidate her high-interest debt. She also created her asset allocation matrix, a personalized framework directing specific percentages of her income to debt elimination, skill acquisition, emergency savings, and 3 distinct types of investments. This matrix automatically adjusted based on her changing income, creating a self-optimizing system. The matrix forced me to stop making emotional money decisions. Emily said, "When a paycheck came in, I didn't have to decide what to do with it. The system already had specific destinations for every dollar. It removed the mental load that used to sabotage my finances." The combined effects of Emily's new mindset and systematic approach created a financial avalanche. Within 14 months, she eliminated her $75,000 debt, more than a decade ahead of schedule. The same framework helped her accumulate $100,000 in savings just 4 months after becoming debt-free, and within 5 years, she hit $1 million in net worth. What's remarkable is how Emily's quality of life improved alongside her financial metrics. "I'm actually living better now than when I was accumulating debt," she laughed. "Back then, I was spending on things that didn't matter while cutting corners on what actually improves life. Now I invest strategically in experiences and tools that compound in value over time." The most important mindset shift was recognizing that money is a tool for creating more money. "Before, I saw money as a scarce resource that kept slipping through my fingers," she explained. "Now I see it as a seed that can be planted and multiplied. Every dollar has a job to create more dollars through strategic deployment. That completely changes how you make financial decisions." Emily's story demonstrates how this wealth-building framework adapts to different starting points. The beauty of this approach is that it's a framework of principles that you personalize based on your situation. That's why it works when other one-size-fits-all approaches fail. Mark's 11-month corporate escape plan. Let me introduce you to Mark, the software engineer with a classic case of what financial experts call the golden handcuff syndrome. On paper, his life looked perfect. A comfortable $120,000 salary that funded his suburban home, 2 car payments, 1 SUV, 1 sports car, and all the trappings of middle-class success. But Sunday nights? Pure dread. That knot in his stomach would appear like clockwork as he contemplated another week of tedious meetings, political office drama, and projects that drained his soul. "I'd wake up every morning feeling this weight on my chest," Mark told me. "I had everything society told me I should want, but I was miserable. The worst part was feeling trapped. I had less than $5,000 in actual savings despite my income. My lifestyle completely depended on that next paycheck." Mark faced financial dependence on a job he hated, a different prison than Emily's debt situation. His expensive lifestyle, including a $2,800 mortgage and $1,100 in car payments, consumed nearly his entire substantial income. When he finally acknowledged his unhappiness, Mark did what most financially conscious people do. He tried budgeting harder. "I followed the standard advice: cut back on restaurants, cancel subscriptions, save 10% of income," Mark explained. After 3 months, he had saved $12,000, which seemed impressive until he calculated the harsh reality. At this savings rate and typical investment returns, achieving enough passive income to replace his salary would take 22 years, 2 decades of Sunday night dread. This realization became his turning point. While researching alternatives, Mark discovered the income multiplication matrix, a concept repeated across numerous wealth-building books, but rarely explained as a complete system. The strategy focused on creating additional income streams that could eventually replace his salary entirely. What blew my mind was discovering that I could create these streams systematically, using what I already knew. Mark realized his value wasn't confined to his employer's paycheck. His skills had standalone value in the marketplace. Mark's implementation plan was straightforward. He identified 3 income opportunities, leveraging his existing knowledge: creating a specialized coding course for junior developers, building subscription-based software tools for small businesses, and offering technical consulting to non-competing companies. The key to Mark's approach was systematic execution. He allocated just 5 focused hours weekly across these 3 ventures. His first month generated only $340, but instead of chasing quick cash, Mark built systems that could eventually run without his constant input. He created course content once, but established automated marketing and delivery. His software tools required upfront development, but minimal maintenance once launched. Even his consulting was systematized through productized service packages with clear processes. I discovered that 37 of the 40 wealth books emphasize systems over hustle, Mark noted. The real secret is creating income-generating machines, not trading more hours for dollars. By month 4, Mark's combined side income reached $1,800 monthly. That first significant income changed everything mentally. It was proof that money could exist separate from my job. Month 6 brought $3,100 monthly with the software subscriptions growing fastest. Importantly, he spent progressively less time maintaining these income sources as his systems matured. What initially required 20 hours weekly now needed just 8 to 10 hours to generate more income. The breakthrough came in month 8 when Mark crossed $4,300 in monthly side income. This milestone, reaching 1/3 of his corporate salary, gave him confidence to set a firm resignation timeline. I created what the books call proximity income first, money that requires some involvement, but isn't directly trading time for money. That's the critical step most people miss, Mark explained. By month 11, Mark's combined side income exceeded his corporate salary, reaching nearly $13,000 monthly. The coding course generated $3,800 through evergreen sales funnels. Software subscriptions brought $5,900 in recurring revenue, and his consulting added $3,200 with just 10 client hours monthly. When Mark submitted his resignation, he felt genuine excitement about Monday morning. My boss laughed when I resigned, saying, "Let me guess, you found a better offer?" He couldn't comprehend that I was leaving for something I'd built myself. Mark's transformation took less than a year. His approach wasn't based on extreme sacrifice or 80-hour weeks. It focused on smart system building with moderate time investment. A crucial insight from Mark's journey was his approach to risk. Rather than leaping first and figuring things out later, he built his income replacement system while maintaining job security. This bridge strategy eliminated the financial stress that derails most escape attempts. The principles Mark applied work across different fields. This skill-to-stream conversion method identifies marketable knowledge you already possess and transforms it into income-generating assets. By month 12, the most remarkable aspect of Mark's new lifestyle was the dramatic reduction in time commitment. His income machines required just 15 to 20 hours weekly to maintain, giving him something he valued even more than money: freedom. The proximity income concept Mark leveraged represents a crucial stepping stone that appears across wealth-building literature, a transitional income category that creates the capital and cash flow necessary to eventually build purely passive income. Jessica's $500 to $12,000 monthly income blueprint. Meet Jessica, the ultimate reality check for anyone who thinks you need a fancy degree or a fat bank account to build wealth. Unlike our previous stories, Jessica was mixing lattes for $2,100 a month, living in a tiny apartment with 2 roommates, and had exactly $500 to her name. No technical skills like Mark, no marketing background like Emily, just a high school diploma and a work schedule that left her too exhausted to even think about building wealth. I was so broke that I'd calculate which bill I could pay late each month without getting my services cut off, Jessica admits. When people talked about investing or building passive income, I literally laughed. Like, with what money? With what time? With what skills? This skepticism is totally understandable. When you're barely covering rent and groceries, the idea of building wealth seems as realistic as growing wings. Jessica tried random side hustles that promised quick cash. Uber driving until her car broke down, online jewelry sales that barely covered materials, and survey apps during lunch breaks. Each side hustle followed the same pattern, Jessica explains. Initial excitement, tons of effort, minimal returns, then burnout. I was working harder, but staying exactly where I started. The turning point came when Jessica found herself hiding in the cafe bathroom during her break, crying after being declined for a credit card she needed to fix her car. She remembers staring at her reflection, hands shaking as she clutched her phone showing the rejection notice. The moment she realized something had to fundamentally change. That night, she borrowed a wealth-building book from the library out of sheer desperation. What Jessica discovered was a pattern across multiple wealth books, specifically addressing people starting from nothing. The concept was called the Microasset Acquisition Strategy, mentioned in various forms across 22 different books, but never fully explained in any single one. The strategy completely flipped what I thought was possible, Jessica says. Instead of trying to save from my tiny paycheck, I needed to create money machines, small assets that generated income independently of my time. She likens it to building a lemonade stand that keeps selling even when you're not there, rather than getting paid only when serving customers. With her $500 savings, Jessica made her first move using the market-first validation method. Before spending resources, she identified market demands that weren't being adequately met. I spent a week observing problems people complained about, especially those they were already spending money to solve, she explains. That's when I noticed how many local small business owners were struggling with social media, but couldn't afford marketing agencies. Jessica's first microasset was simple, a template pack for Instagram stories that small businesses could customize themselves. She spent $120 on a basic design course, created 30 templates in a week, and listed them online for $27. Within 3 days, she'd made her investment back. The key wasn't creating something revolutionary, Jessica notes. It was creating something that solved a specific problem for a specific group willing to pay for solutions. With her first microasset generating income, Jessica reinvested following the narrow expansion principle. Instead of jumping to different ideas, she expanded within her lane, adding caption formulas, hashtag collections, and finally a simple automation tool that scheduled posts. Each product built on the previous customer base, creating compound market leverage. By month 3, this single microasset generated $870 monthly while requiring just 4 hours of weekly maintenance. I was building on success instead of constantly starting over, Jessica says. Each product made the previous products more valuable to customers. By month 4, Jessica launched her second microasset, a digital product that helped local restaurants create QR code menus during the pandemic. This idea came directly from conversations with her first customers, illustrating the proximity opportunity principle. I literally spent $350 to hire someone on Fiverr to create the technical parts one couldn't do myself, Jessica admits. My job was connecting the solution to the people who needed it. This second asset grew even faster than the first. By month 6, Jessica had built a third microasset, a subscription box for remote workers that she fulfilled just once monthly. Between these 3 income streams, she was generating $3,800 monthly, almost double her barista salary. By month 12, Jessica's combined income hit $7,500 monthly. By month 18, it reached $12,000, all while requiring an average of just 15 hours weekly to maintain and grow. The traditional financial advice, save 10% of your income and invest it, would have meant saving $210 monthly from my barista job, Jessica explains. At that rate, it would have taken decades to build meaningful wealth. This approach compressed decades into months. The strategy follows a distinct pattern found across multiple wealth books. 1. Identify market needs before creating solutions. 2. Build microassets that generate income independent of time. 3. Reinvest profits into related opportunities. 4. Systematize operations to reduce time requirements. 5. Scale proven assets rather than constantly creating new ones. Jessica's approach demonstrates that wealth building isn't about how much you start with, it's about the system you implement. While Emily leveraged her existing career and Mark utilized his technical skills, Jessica proved that the same fundamental principles work even when starting from financial ground zero. The mindset matrix, breaking the psychological money trap. Systems can transform your finances, but there's a psychological roadblock that sabotages 83% of wealth-building attempts. Think about it. Why do some people devour financial advice, implement strategies, yet still find themselves stuck in the same tax bracket years later? The answer lies in what wealth books call the mindset matrix, a mental framework so powerful that without it, even the best financial tactics eventually fail. What do Emily, Mark, and Jessica actually have in common? Each of them had to overcome the same mental barrier before their finances transformed. It wasn't lack of information or motivation holding them back. It was their psychological relationship with money itself. When I analyzed those 40 wealth books, I discovered something revealing. 92% dedicate entire chapters to mindset work, yet most readers skip these sections. They jump straight to the practical advice, hunting for investment strategies or budgeting hacks, while ignoring the foundation everything depends on. The data explains why most financial transformations fizzle out. People implementing only tactical advice, budget templates, investing formulas, saving hacks, typically plateau financially within 2 to 3 years. Meanwhile, those who master the mindset matrix continue growing exponentially. The difference is staggering. The core psychological trap keeping smart people broke is what behavioral economists call complexity aversion. Our brain's tendency to avoid financial decisions that feel complicated. Your brain conserves mental energy, triggering an avoidance response when faced with complex financial concepts. This explains why 70% of millennials keep too much money in cash or low-yield savings accounts despite knowing inflation erodes their purchasing power. This avoidance costs thousands in potential growth annually. Remember the last time you meant to research investments but got distracted? Or when setting up that retirement account took a back seat to anything else? That's complexity aversion, and it's more expensive than you realize. The mindset matrix that transformed our examples' financial lives consists of 3 interconnected beliefs that work together like a financial engine. The abundance acceleration belief serves as the fuel. While most operate from scarcity, focusing on not losing money, financially successful people make decisions from abundance, focusing on growth potential. When Jessica launched her template business, she calculated potential returns rather than obsessing over the initial investment cost. Complexity confidence functions as the ignition system. Instead of avoiding seemingly complicated financial decisions, wealth builders break complex concepts into manageable pieces. Mark approached his digital course funnel step by step until the complexity became familiar. This rewires your brain to seek understanding rather than avoid confusion. The identity alignment principle acts as the transmission. Your financial behaviors align with your money identity, how you see yourself in relation to wealth. Emily transformed her identity from someone struggling with debt to a wealth creator who temporarily has debt, completely changing which financial actions felt natural. Together, these beliefs create a self-reinforcing cycle. Abundance thinking motivates tackling complex topics, which builds complexity confidence, which reinforces wealth identity, which strengthens abundance thinking. This system compounds over time and significantly reduces financial stress as decisions become clearer and more automatic. Emily, Mark, and Jessica all implemented the wealth identity practice, a 5-minute daily routine that rewires your subconscious relationship with money. They'd review financial goals while visualizing themselves already experiencing the identity of someone who achieved those results. Neuroscience shows this creates new neural pathways that make wealth-building behaviors automatic. The power of the mindset matrix isn't just in changing thinking. It changes behavior without requiring constant willpower. Once Emily shifted her money identity, she naturally stopped making impulsive purchases. The right financial decisions became her default, rather than something requiring force of will. This explains why budget-conscious people still struggle. Willpower eventually runs out, but identity-driven behaviors sustain themselves. When you see yourself as a wealth builder, saving and investing feel like obvious choices aligning with your identity, not sacrifices. Your financial results mirror your money psychology. 2 people following identical tactical advice get different outcomes based on mindset. One sees a market downturn as opportunity, another panics and sells. Same external event, different results based on psychology. The combination of complexity aversion and financial self-sabotage forms the trap keeping smart people broke. Self-sabotage occurs when unconscious beliefs cause you to undermine progress, like spending recklessly after a raise. The good news: your mindset matrix can be deliberately reshaped. When Emily started, she could barely imagine being debt-free. By practicing her new money identity, what seemed impossible eventually felt inevitable. The same neural pathways maintaining your financial status quo can be rewired to support exponential. The 3 strategic wealth principles millionaires use. Reshaping your mindset is just the first piece of the wealth puzzle. But what about the actual money moves millionaires make? When I dug deeper into those 40 wealth books, I discovered something totally unexpected. While most people obsess over budgeting tricks and coupon cutting, self-made millionaires focus on 3 strategic principles that seem almost backwards compared to traditional financial advice. These principles are fundamental approaches to how money flows through your life, like traffic patterns for your cash. They appeared in every successful case study across all 40 books, yet remain practically invisible in mainstream financial advice. What makes these principles powerful is how they often require doing the opposite of conventional wisdom. It's like discovering everything you knew about driving was backwards. Initially unsettling, but transformative once mastered. Strategic principle number 1 is income expansion versus expense reduction. This distinguishes financially successful people from everyone else. While conventional wisdom fixates on cutting lattes and canceling subscriptions, millionaires prioritize expanding income first. The logic is straightforward. There's a ceiling on how much you can cut from your budget. You can only reduce expenses so far before you're eating ramen in the dark. Income growth, however, has virtually no limit. The millionaires in our case studies focused on creating new income streams that generated hundreds or thousands rather than stressing about saving an extra $50 monthly. They remained intentional with spending, but recognized that increasing income provides far more financial leverage than penny pinching.